All right, so I got the guys from MDT here, Ryan and Josh. Is that correct? Tell me what you guys do over there.
Yeah, so my position over here at MDT is I do project management and testing and evaluation. Also do a lot of work on product development as well, particularly in the competition sector and looking at different products we could be creating and what we're making and how we can make it better.
Yeah, my name's Josh Botha. I'm one of the lead product engineers here at MDT. I've worked on a whole host of projects, anything from more recently the ACC Elite. We've worked on the LSS XL Gen 2, the ACC Premier, some of the One Piece scope rings, the comp break. I've done a whole bunch of different projects, been involved in a lot of the gear that MDT's put out the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Eric.
Cool. Yeah, man. Anytime. So Ryan, you're the one that's always blowing stuff up on YouTube. Is that it? Or somewhat?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're always trying to do some different things there. So we got some new stuff coming down the pipeline too. That's kind of cool. So, yeah.
So, just walk me through what it takes to do like what you do, in the sense of you have to create this large fixture to test recoil or whatever. Whose idea is it, and who has to do the work? I guess it's the main two questions.
Great questions. So really it starts off with like the guys that are creating content. That we have a group of us that decide on what we want to create for content, ideas around it. It generally can come from realistically anybody, team guys, general public, whoever wants to have an idea to throw at us, we'll look at it for testing stuff. From there, I'll sit down with the engineering team. We'll decide on, what's going to be the best way to test this, or what are some ideas around testing it. And then, for example, that recoil rig that we made, the pendulum system, we went and designed that, had one of the engineers design that, built it, and went out and started using it. So then that's the reason why we built that project to start with, was actually to test the comp brake. And it just was a really good crossover to be able to go and do video work around brakes as well, and recoil and that type of thing. I'm actually in the middle of building a second one right now. That's a full linear system I should have it built tomorrow, actually, and hoping to start doing some video work with it in the next week or two. Probably actually after SHOT Show now.
Nice. So you have the ideas, but you don't have to build it. That's awesome.
Well, I'm putting it together this time.
Oh,
I didn't design it, but I'm still putting it together.
You fooled them once. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's we definitely put a lot of effort into our production stuff. Doing the videos as much as we we try to do at least a day of video a week, videoing a week. So, and that adds up. Obviously on the back end, there's a lot more time put into that. So, it's people are enjoying the content, and we're keep on learning from it as well ourselves. So we try to kind of do both at the same time and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, well, that sounds like fun. Josh, are you stuck in an office all day just designing, or do you actually get to go play and like Ryan does?
No, I mean, we're super fortunate here. Actually, the first time we came up with the idea for the recoil pendulum, Ryan and I were tasked to actually go and test it out. So we took a 6x4 sheet of plywood and a skateboard and got really creative. So no, it's actually really awesome. It's very much encouraged for the engineering team to be part of the shooting community, and to not just be, in an office all day. So there's a lot of incentives from MDT to get us out shooting, and Ryan and I will shoot quite a lot together. We've shot a couple PRS matches, NRL Hunter matches, traveled around quite a bit. We also go to shows, things like SHOT Show and the IWA show in Germany. So yeah, we are really lucky that way, where we're not just stuck looking at a screen trying to figure out, okay, how do we solve this problem, but actually going out there and using the products and seeing where they're applicable. So yeah, we kind of get the best of both worlds in that way.
Good. So at what point do you guys decide we need a new chassis? Because, I mean, you guys seem to have been doing okay with what you had. How does that work?
So generally, we do have a bit of a life cycle on our chassis, kind of the 3 to 5 year mark, on when we decide that, it's at a good point. We need to start looking at doing a redesign, basically, because the market's changing. It's always continuously changing on the long range side. We're discovering different things, understanding different things, people are wanting different stuff. So generally on a chassis like this, we're going to be between 12 and 24 months to to develop it, usually 18 to 24 months to develop it and have it on the shelf. So we're definitely playing the long game and trying to understand when we need to have that out, and knowing particularly like on a project like the ACC Elite, we had a prototype at SHOT Show last year that we were okay with. We were happy with it to a point, but we knew that we still had a lot of development to go with it. If you put them side by side, the majority of people probably couldn't tell the difference. But we know internally that there was a bunch of changes made between now and then and now to improve it even more, and really work with our shooting team to, push those boundaries, making sure that we're listening to the customers, what they want. We keep a database of all recommendations, all ideas that people want to see done to our stuff, or suggestions they want to see upgraded, and we're continuously reviewing those too. It's just part of our culture here to make sure that we're making the best products we possibly can.
Just to kind of add to that really quick, we are really fortunate with the shooting team we have as well. Our whole MDT sponsor team, we've got, a ton of professional shooters who are out there constantly using products and constantly coming up with ways to better stuff, and basically just breaking things essentially and saying, okay, well, why did that break? How did it break? And how do we make it better? So having all that feedback from our shooters is invaluable. And, we have a large team, and a lot of people ask us, why do we have so many people shooting for us? But that's part of the reason is, the more people we have out there testing our gear to the very nth degree, the better we're going to make it at the end of the day. So they're a huge part of our development process for sure.
So sounds like your shooters are your R&D team, right? In a way. So
a little bit.
So people are going to have this question. How do they become one of your shooters?
So the way it usually goes about for our shooting team is we have two different levels of shooting team, essentially we'll call it, or two different, I don't want to call it classes, but we have our supported team, which they can go and apply for that. We do a yearly application process. We release it online, usually via Facebook. We also do have, I believe the form is actually always on the website as well. And so anybody can go and apply for that, put their name in, basically describe on what they're going to be, what they will be shooting for the season, what they've done in the past for their why they should qualify to be on that team. And then from there, we generally will select guys for the actual team that have either been, involved in the sport for longer, have a good reputation. A big part of our team is we want to have we're very, very focused on having a culture of super supportive shooters, really good guys that just are out there really pushing the sport, really pushing the development of the sport, new shooters, match directors, guys like that are, really at the, I don't want to call them influencers, but definitely influencing what's happening in the community, or being influenced by what's happening in the community, so that we make sure that we have a solid team that is, a great bunch of shooters that are very, very knowledgeable and can help us develop product and grow the sport. Because really, that's once again, that's a big part of our culture here, is really pushing the sport forward and making sure that getting new guys into the sport and helping everybody out.
Well, that sounds good. So pretty much anybody can just apply. Lost you there.
Sorry. Yeah, we're in the same room, so we're trying to mute and unmute real quick. So, yeah, literally anybody can apply, from, PRS, F class, team matches, whatever, right? 22 rimfire stuff. Our biggest focus obviously is on the PRS right now, and, rimfire, PRS, NRL hunter, that type of situation. Generally, a lot of those guys also go do hunting and things like that too, which also makes great content for our marketing team that, we can utilize that too. It's, we want to, the guys that are on our team, we will definitely work together. We help them out, they help us out, and it's a really good relationship we have. I'm going to, our main team guys, I'm probably talking to every one of them, every couple of weeks almost.
Good. So as you know, I got the Elite, the new, that thing is freaking awesome. So, you guys released a certain number of them first. How does that work? How does the release process work?
Yeah, so this one was a challenge. One of the things people don't realize is how much work we do for other companies, like for building chassis for, say, Savage or other OEMs, and we have to work around that with our production schedules and stuff like that too. And basically, what it came down to is we had a rush job that came through that delayed the ACC Elite. And well, when somebody orders a lot of chassis, we have to make sure that we can help them out and make sure we can accommodate that. It unfortunately did bump our production on the Elite out more than we would have liked to have seen. So when we did the release on the Elite, we made sure that we got all of our team guys that ordered chassis, and people like yourself, like people that are doing reviews on things, people that are in social media, that type of situation, also received realistically only a couple of them. We even cut that list back quite a bit because we had a very limited run for this first run, unfortunately. And then from there, we released the rest online. So release the rest, some of the online and also some to our dealers as well. So we have them in production right now. We should see the next batch coming in the end of January, if that's still on track. I believe it is. And that will fulfill the rest of our back orders that we have. And then we'll be just keep on rocking and rolling. So it was not the most ideal release, we'll put it that way, for us. We were sold out within, I think it was under 10 minutes. We were sold out of all of the ones we had in stock, unfortunately. So, but we wanted to make sure people were getting them in their hands and getting them shooting, because we had them here and we didn't want them sitting on the shelf any longer. So, and the feedback's been fantastic, like yourself.
So, you say you sold out in 10 minutes. Is that good or bad? It sounds like it's good, but at the same time, and I understand, being a manufacturer myself, it's a great feeling that your product is well received, but at the same time, there's going to be people that are going to be upset because they can't get their hands on them.
Is definitely the unfortunate part of the whole situation. It just comes down to at a certain point we have to release it. It needs to get out on the shelf. It needs to get out in people's hands, right? We don't like having stuff on back order, but for example, the HNT 26, like our hunting chassis, the same ones in the picture behind me, that thing some part numbers for that chassis or configurations for that chassis were on back order for a year, literally just because there's that many orders.
Wow. We
just could not get ahead of the actual manufacturing on it. And we try. We add machines, we add shifts, we add people. We're continuously trying to improve that as much as possible, because in manufacturing, if you have it on the shelf, you're more likely to sell it than if somebody's going to have to back order it. So we push to have stuff on the shelf. We have a lot of stuff in stock the majority of the time. If it's not in stock, it's likely in production and will be out shortly. So
good. So okay. So right now you guys are, trying to fill the orders, trying to get caught up on the Elite chassis. What does that do to everything else?
Well, so just to jump in as well, one thing we try to do before we launch the chassis or any product is we try to fully flesh it out, make sure that, during the prototype phase, we go through and we look at every single component 100 times. We make sure that everything is as perfect as we can make it. And we really try to make sure that there's no flaws, there's no bugs, there's nothing that when we go to production, something's going to come and pop up and say, oh, okay, well, that's all scrap now. And we're always a little hesitant to do a first run that's really big, because when you go from that, one-off prototype to 100 pieces, it's like, okay, well, now we can't have that level of control on every single piece. So we really made sure that we did a good run on this first one, because we knew that there was going to be a lot of demand for these chassis. But going into the large scale production, we learned a couple things. We had a couple unforeseen things kind of pop up, and that's what also slowed us down just a little bit. But in saying that, with everything else, we, once we kind of get past that initial launch and that big spike of people wanting a new chassis or a new grip or muzzle brake or whatever, then everything kind of levels off a little bit, after a couple months. And then we just have a consistent ordering program, where we're just pumping out things as much as we can, especially on those SKUs that we know that are really popular, right? So a lot of the Remington 700 chassis, competition stuff, HNTs, we have some specialized SKUs that we say, okay, we're never going to run out of these. We're always going to have something on the stock so that if someone orders it, ideally they have it, shipped out the same day kind of thing.
I see. So, I mean, you guys make tons of different chassis, right? Like different configurations. How many different ones do you guys make?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, we have a whole variety of chassis. And, we started with just our one chassis line, the TAC 21, and that was over 10 years ago now. So we've expanded. We've got TAC 21. We've got an LSS RF, LSS Gen 2, which are basically the same chassis. Our light sniper system. We've got our ESS chassis, which is one of our older chassis at the time being, probably due for a refresh sometime soon. We've got our HNT 26, our hunting chassis, which a lot of people have really been a huge fan of since we launched that. Our LSS XL Gen 2s. Those are our dual chassis. They're nice and lightweight, compact, but still have a lot of the features that people want. We've got the JAEs we've added now, the JAE Gen 4s, which are a separate product line, but still part of the MDT family. We've got the Oryx. Man, I'm going to forget what it's called now. We've changed the name on it a couple times, but basically the Oryx chassis has been rolled under MDT's name. So it's on our website now. You can find them all under one place. And we will be launching the Oryx Field Stock, which is a stock version of the same chassis coming up soon. That should be for sale in the next couple of months here. We've got the Timber Frontier, which is our wood stock with the chassis internals, ACC Premier, ACC Elite. I think that covers the XRS chassis as well. Man, we're at 11. And we're still developing. We've actually got some really cool ideas, some things in the pipeline. A couple new designs that are a little bit left field. Some different things that we're exploring into. There's just so many markets out there, so many different types of shooters, and we really, we want to try our best to cater to as many as we can.
Wow. Your machinist must really love you.
Well, and then tackle all the inlets and on that too, right? Like some of those we have, a dozen inlets or more. So it's it adds up very quickly, the amount of SKUs we have. So it's and then like I said, all the other products on top of that. We have a substantial machine shop. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'd like to look at that. That would be. Can I get a tour someday?
100%, man. Anytime you want to come up here to BC, we'll take you for a tour.
For sure.
We'll take.
That sounds like
I'll take you shooting.
There you go. Teach me a thing or three. So development. You said about 18 to 24 months is kind of development, but that's when you put it out to the market. But what's the development phase, and at what point do you say this was a bad idea? Because they can't all be good ideas.
Yeah, that's very true. So we definitely have we have our design team that's really starts off the process of designing it and kind of getting the ergonomics around the idea, the look. And then from there, that usually is about a 2-month process to 3-month process. We can identify pretty quickly if this is something we're really going to want to do at that point. If it is something like Josh said is a little more left field, we have to do more. We're going to have to do more development on the engineering side. You'll drop into engineering, and then it might be in engineering for say 3 to 6 months. We do a lot of polymer product, which is a lot of mold development, things like that. Sometimes you get down to the, halfway through that and you're doing mold development and we just can't make it work, or it just economically just doesn't add up anymore at that point. Generally we have them fleshed out pretty well before we get to that point that we know that product's is going to make it to the finish line. But yeah, every now and then, we'll get a magazine that's like, yeah, you know what, this is just not worth our time, that we don't see the ROI on what this is going to be, for example, or it's just, it just doesn't make sense sometimes. And we are willing to do that. Like we are willing to cancel a project if it doesn't add up, or if it just comes to a point where it's just too much. So we don't like the failure, but at some point you have to accept it.
Yeah, that's part of it. I know for a fact. I mean, that's, We ran into that ourselves. We have this really cool idea, and then you work on it for a while, and then you go, yeah, this is not gonna work. It's just like you said, the ROI is not there. Like like it doesn't matter. At least to me, it doesn't matter if you develop something that everybody else, the comparable product out there is, I don't know, a couple $100, and what you design is better, but you need to get 500 or 600. It's I don't know. Maybe sometimes it'll work, but I don't know. That's kind of what we run into sometimes. So I'll just make one and keep it for myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like we involve a lot of our team in our development process. Everything from customer service, engineering, marketing, the design team. Everybody's involved in that whole process. Like, we do a weekly design meeting where we go through a lot of the different projects we're working on, and at those points, it's like decided, or sometimes at those points, it's decided that maybe we need to make a complete right turn here and do something completely different. And it's really cool having that flexibility in a company like this that allows us to do that. Or we say, we're happy with it, but if we do this, this, and this, it will extend the for example, I'll say for the HNT 26, like we were about to release that 6 months before it actually got released. They decided it had to be lighter. So they just went from a center body that was made of aluminum and decided to make it into magnesium, and also decided to go and mold in Arca rail into the fore-end carbon fiber. So two things that have... So the magnesium's been done. The Arca into the carbon fiber had not been done before. So taking those ideas and saying, okay, well, we need to make the most badass chassis for hunting possible. And we're willing to take that time and do it and make sure that, we love it internally and it is amazing, so that, our customers are going to be happy with it too.
We've also had it like, there's been a couple times I can think during the history here. And I've had some projects canceled halfway through, where it sucks, right? And you kind of suck it up and say, you know what, look, we learned from it. But we've had it where the market's changed too. So actually during the development of the ESS, that was kind of supposed to be our competition PRS type chassis, and we were actually really far down the rabbit hole of putting an Anschutz rail in the fore end, and we had to develop them, we prototyped them, we were going to launch them with an Anschutz rail, and then someone was like, hey, you guys ever looked at this Arca system? We're like, no, never even heard of it. No one's going to use it. That's dumb. And here we are now. So, I mean, sometimes the market just changes halfway through a project, and you just kind of have to adapt, right?
Well, you're kind of glad it changed before you released it and not after.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it hurts to learn that after the fact. And you're like, oh, okay, well, now we're stuck with these things, right?
Yeah. No, I completely get it. I understand. But yeah, it can be a lot of fun developing new products, because you get to sit around and go, what if? And then next thing you know, a few months later, there it is. It's in your hands.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective as an engineer or pretengineer, I love that process. I love the idea from, hey, this is something on a napkin or a piece of paper or a whiteboard. Like, okay, well, what does this look like, right? What is this thing actually supposed to be? And I think we're actually pretty good at doing that, where we'll have a bit of a left field idea from our CEO, who's a little bit eccentric sometimes, and he loves to come up with outside the box and how this has never been done before. How do we do it? And it's really interesting to try and work back from that and say, okay, well, this is the end goal. We want to do something that's legendary, right? And make the best product we can. But is it even possible? Can we even do it? And more often than not, yes. We just have no idea how the heck we're going to do it when we start.
Now, I got a question for you. How do you decide to make a product that's readily available from other companies? How do you approach that?
It kind of depends. I mean, like, for example, like a bipod. Everybody, well, not everybody, but there's a ton of different bipods out there. A lot of the times, the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the market and we'll say, okay, well, is there a hole? Is there something we can do better? Is there a price point we can hit or a feature we can establish? Or sometimes, in the case of some of our projects, it's like, okay, well, how do we just make the best of something? And I mean, even when we started, people were making chassis. AI was out there, KRG was out there. There was a lot of different companies that were making chassis, but we usually try to find that hole in the market. We try to find something that we're designing to, and that usually drives the rest of the project. And sometimes it pivots halfway through, and we find something new that we can add or we can change. And it really depends on the project, but we set those main goals at the beginning and then just try to develop everything we have around that. So for example, like the ACC Elite, really, that was driven by the shooter team saying, look, we love the ACC, but we believe there's things you can make better. We can make the forend more rigid. We can change the center of gravity. We can change the recoil path. We can add some of these features, some of the thumb shells, connector bar, all of these little things, right? And that was really just feature driven. Whereas something like the ground pod, for example, which is our more entry level bipod, that was more so price driven. Saying, okay, cool, people love our sky pods. We think they're great. We're really happy with how they're doing, but not everybody wants to pay $600 for a bipod. That's a lot. That costs more than some people's guns. Right. So, okay, let's make something that fits that market a little bit better. So it really, it's kind of project dependent.
I see. Well, that's very interesting because you guys know that we have the Oryx chassis on our Needmore or 6.5 Needmores, and man, they just made a huge difference on the feel, the handling, and that is not a very expensive chassis. I mean, people can get their hands on that chassis for below $500, I believe, and that is a great value to me, the way I see it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we try to make sure that we have something for everybody out there, or, as much as possible, so that we can cover that spectrum of, the new shooter or the person that's want to do that quick upgrade to their 700 or whatever, and all the way up to the guy that's competing at the highest levels for PRS. It's, like if the around development stuff too, for example, on the SkyPod, we saw the SkyPod, and when they started the development on looking at doing a bipod for MDT, it was decided that the SkyPod was the best option that we figured we could do. So partnering with Sky Thomas on that was, the best option, or, one of the best options we could look at. And, same with kind of like the LRA. Like, now we hadn't looked at doing an LRA level or an electronic level, but, the opportunity arose that we could start working with them, and we believed in that product heavily, and knew that it was going to be an important product continuing in the precision world, moving over into F-class stuff, moving into, all precision type shooting, right? It's critical product that everybody needs.
Yeah, for sure. That Jason has the SkyPod. Is it called the SkyPod, right?
Yeah, correct.
He loves that thing. I don't shoot bipod enough to really be able to formulate an opinion, but Jason, he loves that thing. He just, so many configurations. So your rings, your one-piece mounts, you guys just recently made it shorter, right? Like, what drives something like that? Like, it's got to be something that triggers that.
That was an interesting one, and that was less driven by a hole in the market or a price point or something. That was more driven by a lot of our shooters getting LRA levels and not having rail space available to mount them. So that one was a little bit of a different issue that we had. And really the reason we made it so long in the first place is we didn't see any downside. A lot of rails still had space on there, but we really wanted to maximize the point of impact shift and the chance of anything ever coming loose. And that's why we gave it the most amount of contact we could. And that's why we were really hesitant to make the mount shorter and to bring it back in line with where a lot of the other mounts are. But we did a lot of testing. Ryan spent quite a lot of time testing and literally hammering on these mounts to make sure that they weren't going to shift, nothing was going to come loose, that the action or the scope base would actually move before the mount did. And that was really the reason for that. It was basically just based off of feedback and people wanting a little bit more rail space on top of their receiver to mount different levels of data card holders like that. And that's really why we made them shorter.
Well, makes sense. Now that you tell me why. Yeah, I was just wondering, because to me, I was like, well, that works perfectly fine. Why would they shorten it? And well, now that you tell me, it's like, well, they need to put a level back there or in front of it or whatever. Okay.
It was also for some of the shorter tube scopes as well. The long mount was a little on the long side for, Schmidt's or Collis's, like the 3D18 style, or that size scope. So that was less important, I say, in the project overall. It was basically because of the LRA.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. You can't have a sales level, but with the caveat that they can't use your mount with it.
Well, and it's also a little bit tricky with, like some of these things like the LRA, it's a company that we acquired, and it kind of came out of almost kind of out of nowhere. And same thing with the SkyPod. It's a little bit tricky from a design engineering standpoint, because we'll be making these projects and we know that a lot of these other accessories exist, and we know that they're out there. We've usually had a chance to play with them at some point or another. But then they become an MDT product. It's like, cool, okay, now you guys have to fully support this new product line. It's like, okay, let's do this now, I guess. So there's a lot of people right now who are asking us for, okay, like integrate the LRA in this and put it into the chassis, put it into the rigs, put it into the all this thing. It's like, okay, we would love to. That sounds great. Let's first figure out how we make them, and then then we can start doing other things.
Yeah, for sure. I got one of them. I'm gonna put one on my F-class rifle. It's so critical. It's so critical for that rifle to be level. It's just, a lot of people don't realize how little it takes to, especially when we're trying to hit a half MOA target at 1,000 yards. And
precisely what I was thinking too, Eric. Yeah,
it's nuts.
The precision you're pushing is crazy. So
yeah. I had a small level, and I don't know if I told you the story, but it had a real small level on my rifle, and I thought, that's good enough, compact. And it bit me. I went to a match and, did my come-ups. I had my wind zero, everything perfect. And when I got there, it was windy the whole time. But when it died down, I held pretty much, it was just very mild. So I held left edge, pretty much the typical left edge. So you're guaranteed to hit it. And it went upwind, which it never should have. And that started driving me crazy. I mean, I corrected, but, it was like, a good 3/4 of MOA. And it was just driving me crazy. Well, when I got back home, I went to 100 and everything was fine. But when you dial it up, and that was what was driving us crazy. Sometimes it'd be okay, sometimes it wouldn't. Well, we tracked it down to the level that it was not sensitive enough that you could be way off and it's still the level wouldn't show it. Right? So anyway, that cost me a championship. So how much is your level worth, right? To me, that level, because of that, it's worth a few $1,000s, honestly, because that's at least what it cost me. But nobody has, I'm sure somebody has a story like that, but they probably don't even realize it.
Yeah, I think more and more people are realizing now too. Though we have done a few videos around the whole idea of cant, and how it applies to your scope, how it applies the height of your your bases, your scope bases. Well, we did like a 21-inch high scope base to show height over board really doesn't matter, and also doesn't matter for cant either, right? Because 1 degree at the bore is still 1 degree 20 inches in the air, and it was interesting to see that and show that kind of in a myth buster type situation, right? Where you're just showing it quickly, and we do prove it on the back end as well, but making people understand how important those levels are. Targets are getting smaller and smaller. You guys are shooting half MOA targets. It's and that's what we got to keep in for the the V or the X ring, right? So
right.
It's the when your bullet's shifting as much as it is, when it is like a half degree or a degree out or 2 degrees out, which is pretty easy to do, say off of like a car hood, people just don't realize it. It's extremely important. It's one of the most important things now. It is. I feel uncomfortable not shooting with it on my gun now. It's critical in my shot process.
Yeah, that's, like I said, it bit me, and now it's like, all right, let's put and now we're testing levels and making sure that, yeah, it's just seems like a never ending road to to acquiring the best and most reliable equipment possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, you're trying, everybody can, build a gun fairly accurately, or, build ammo to a point as well. And I guess the people want to have that gear edge to a point as well. But yeah, it's, if you don't utilize that gear to what it can be used, it's, it becomes useless, right? So not having those little things here and there really add up to not winning. So like you just said, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sucked. Anyway, live and learn. So, Ryan, you guys both shoot PRS style matches?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we both shoot PRS. I started shooting in Ontario, Canada here, shooting precision rifle matches over in the Connaught range. I know you've been there before in Ottawa. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then shot a PRS match down in the US back in, it was 2015, 2014 area. And that just triggered me into going into a really deep rabbit hole very quickly, and just progressed from there, running matches and eventually getting into the industry here. So it's, and we're shooting quite a bit. Like, I'll be down into the US 10 times, 15 times this year to shoot matches. Josh, as well, is shooting quite a bit of matches. He does more field style matches. I'll let him talk to that a bit though too. So, but yeah, generally it's like Josh said, it's really encouraged for us to get out and shoot as much as we possibly can. We get an ammo allowance, we get, some match fees and stuff like that paid for. So they really support us to get out there and, shoot, basically understand what's going on and see more and more of it ourselves.
That sounds like a sweet gig.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely worse places to work, I'll tell you that. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, my background's kind of similar to Ryan. I started shooting little matches here on an F-class range in 2015, locally here in Chilliwack, and yeah, I got hooked, just got the bug, and then by 2018, I was finishing up school and wanted to come work in the industry, and I knew I wanted to, however I possibly could, try and work in the gun industry, and that just led me to shooting matches with a couple of guys who worked here. And yeah, I really gravitated more to the field style matches, hike your butt off and then shoot every now and then kind of thing. I love those type of matches. We've got the RTC series up here in the Pacific Northwest, which is a lot of fun. A lot of practical engagements, movers, pistol shooting, ARs, stuff like that. I really like the Hunter series. The new NRL Hunter series has been just a blast to get out there, shoot something like our HNT 26, a little bit more recoil, but yeah, I also really love the PRS series. I've been shooting a 6mm Dasher the last couple of years, trying to compete as much as I can. Definitely not as successful as I'd like to be, and I think Ryan's definitely taken the upper hand between the two of us there in PRS. But yeah, we have a lot of fun, and it really does help product development at the end of the day. So I think that's really why it's encouraged for us. So yeah, we've got it pretty good.
Well, you answered my question. The next question was going to be who's the better shooter, but you already answered it. So
I think we'll endlessly debate it. We'll always go back and forth. But I think at the end
Ryan's
of the day,
always going to have this video to show you. Said, well, you admitted that I was the better shooter. So Ryan, you and I met back in 2017. I'll let you tell the story of what happened when we met.
Yeah, so back in 2017, they were running the World Championship F-Class match in Connaught, Ottawa, in Canada. And one of the limitations with the Connaught range, there's actually a Boy Scout camp behind where the range is, and it's just on the edge of the template. Depending on what speed of bullet you're running, the BC of the bullet, so they have a calculation that works it out. So because of that, there's a limitation on how fast you can run your rounds, and with compared to the BC your bullet. Now, I believe you were shooting FTR then, were you not?
F open.
Or you were shooting open? Okay, I couldn't remember what you were exactly. But anyway, a 308 was never going to hit it with the limitations we had. So we focused heavily on the people that were shooting open guns realistically. And to manage that, we would randomly pull people initially for the first couple of days. And then when people started placing higher and higher, we started pulling strategically who we should test, basically.
All right, that was going to be my next question. It's like, was it really randomly? And then, okay, now you just answered my question.
Yeah, so it was at first. Now, I shouldn't say... was random to a point. You and I both know there's only certain calibers are going to hit that. So those were obviously selected very quickly for safety reasons, basically.
Right.
So like I said, after, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, 2 days or 3 days into it, we started selecting by placement. And what we did was we had a labrador set up, we had a magneto set up. You gave me ammo at the beginning of the match, 3 rounds.
No. You took it, which is different. So this is important to the story, because you guys would wait until we got done shooting, and there was no chance to go to the truck or anything. The minute we came off the line, you said, "Hey, you guys need to come with me," or "You need to come with me." And right there and then we had to open our ammo box, and you guys would take 4 rounds, and you would select them yourself, randomly, I guess.
Yep.
I say that because you picked here and here, there and there, right? And you took 4 rounds. And the idea was 3 were going to be shot over the chronograph, and 1 was going to be kept for disassembly if there was a suspicion that somebody was probably lying about the bullet weight or anything.
Yeah, that's right. That was my mistake on that. Yeah. So selected your bullets, had you walk over to the other end of the range with me and set up with the magneto and lab radar and shoot down into the berm, essentially. And so you shot your first round. I don't remember what the speeds were. You shot your second round, it was identical. And you shot your third round, and I believe it was a foot per second off.
Yeah, one foot per second off.
Yeah.
So my stated velocity or reported whatever I said I was. You guys asked me, how fast are you going? I said 2880. And I shot 3 shots, and my average was 2877. I was 3 feet off of what I said it was, and my ES was 1 and my SD was 0.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was pretty fun. And then I ended up getting an award at the award ceremony for the lowest SD in the world. So
yes,
next time people says nobody gives awards for low SD, that's incorrect.
Yeah, at least in Canada we do. So
yeah, that was fun. I mean, fun in a sense of that happening, right? And not only did it happen, but Scott kind of made a big deal about it and turned into a kind of a running joke, and it's still going on because I keep it alive.
Nice.
But
I've told the story multiple times too, so it's always a good story.
It was fun, but yeah, I remember that it's like, come with us, and it was like directly like, don't go anywhere else, which I think is the way to do it. It's like, give me the ammo that you just shot right now, and let's go shoot it. Because if you're trying to, there's always the possibility somebody has a special load that's downloaded for such occasions. And I figured, and I guess you guys figured out, hey, let's not give them a chance to change anything.
Yeah, and I think there was only one discrepancy in all the testing I did that week, and it was a matter of just a misunderstanding is what it came down to. I can't remember what the details were exactly, but everybody else was, playing ball right there. Everybody was making sure they were not going to get knocked out for cheating, which is fantastic to see, because we all know in this sport it's a really tight community, and anybody that cheats is out very, very quickly.
Well, I wish I had known you better then, because I just needed you to take out 4 people, and I would have won.
Yeah, exactly. So
anyway, it's all good stuff, man. But yeah, that's when we met the first time, and I didn't realize it was you until you reminded me of it, and you told me the story. Fun stuff.
Yeah. We were down at PRE there. A couple months ago. So yeah.
So what's next? What are you guys working on that you can't tell nobody, but you can tell me, and I won't tell nobody else?
That's honestly a great question. There's a couple things we can talk about. There's some things we can't. One that's really exciting that I know we've started talking about a little bit is our electronic trigger, our 0-stage trigger, which is a Remington 700 platform trigger.
Okay, stop. That's a great name. That's a great name for a trigger. Like
the ET
there's 2-stage, because there's a 2-stage, right? Mm-hmm. And then typically it's a 1-stage, and yours is 0-stage.
Well, this is it, right? So earlier when we talked about just kind of crazy left field ideas and coming up with things that have never been done before, this is exactly what it was. We started building a mechanical trigger, and we realized that it's kind of all being done. There's nothing, especially with the 700, there's almost nothing we can really do something new. And that was, a year and a half into development. And we were sitting around one day and we're having a meeting, and basically came up like, okay, well, single stage is cool, but what if we had a 0 stage, right? Now, what does that mean? How do we do that? And we had no idea. We didn't know if it was even possible. And that's where it started. So yeah, there's absolutely 0 trigger shrew movement.
So how does that work? You're the engineer. Tell me. No, okay. You don't have to get into the stuff that you can't tell me, but what I'm getting at is, how do you activate it?
As one of our sponsor shooters, Dave, likes to say, cobwebs and magic. That's how he explains anything that's electronic. But yeah, basically, we're leveraging some really cool technologies where there is a mechanical interface, but there's also electronic interface with a solenoid driving a lot of things. So we have a battery on board, we have a microprocessor, we have a whole circuit board.
How big is this trigger?
It's actually
it's a backpack. It comes in a backpack.
Yeah, that was arguably the hardest thing we had to tackle. Was like, we had to actually fit this onto an action, and have it fit within a chassis or a stock. So it is a little bit bigger than a standard conventional trigger, but it's only 5/8 of an inch wide, which, compared to the 1/2 inch or a little under 1/2 inch that a standard trigger is, it's not terrible. So it should actually drop fit into pretty much just about everything.
When can I get one?
I'll share a few more details as well.
There you go. Come on, Ryan. Come on. Hook me up.
So the reason that, like Josh said, is 0 stage is because there is 0 movement when you do press your trigger, which is a really interesting sensation. So if you go take a pen and you go and you put your finger against it, the pen doesn't move, but your skin around the pen moves, right? Like you compress the skin essentially, and that's the sensation you're getting when you're pulling this trigger, because it has a preset on a sensor which is holding as the 0, we'll call it, and you can set that trigger anywhere from 4 ounces to 4 pounds. And so when you have it set to whatever weight you want it to be, say 8 ounces, when it hits 8 ounces of pressure on that sensor, that's when it sends a signal to the PCB board. The PCB board then sends a signal to the solenoid. The solenoid then pushes a rod, which then drops your sear. So there's a disconnect between when you're pulling that trigger and then when I should say disconnect. There's just mechanical disconnect because it's controlled electronically after that trigger is actually engaged on the sensor and allows that sear to drop. It's instantaneous. We're actually trying to figure out a way to measure it more accurately because it's difficult to measure it right now. But it's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's a great feeling. I've shot some insanely tight groups with it, and we're gonna have them at SHOT Show. So I'm assuming you're gonna be at SHOT Show. We're gonna have a whole display there.
Bring an extra one.
I'll see what I can do. Okay.
You had me at extremely small groups.
Yes.
Yeah, so we will have them at SHOT. We are really excited to have them there and show them to people. We're right now.
Yeah, we can show them to people. That would be awesome. So
yep.
This is one of the questions that I've been asking for a long time. What's next in technology, right? Because like you guys said, triggers. Just when I thought they couldn't get better, they did. Right? I use Flavio triggers. They have a small little roller bearing in there, and I'm shooting 1 ounce triggers, and I thought, well, what's the difference between a 1 ounce trigger like a Jewel and a 1 ounce trigger that has a bearing in there? 1 ounce, you can't feel the difference. You can, right? And that blew me away when I first tried one. Well, but then I go, okay, what's next, right? Because roller bearing, that what's well, now you guys, because Remington tried that before, right? And
yeah, their approach was a little different though, right? Because they wanted to completely remove the firing pin and then rely on electric signal, electric primers as well, where we really, really didn't want to get into that because we don't want to build actions. So this was kind of our next best bet. And it kind of came out of nowhere where Martin basically said, well, why do we make this thing electronic? We said, well, no, we can't do that. How do we do that? We don't want to have a backpack worth of a trigger, right? And yeah, here we are. I think we're still pretty early on in the actual development. There are still some things we need to work out, and because it is a fire control component, we are a little nervous about making sure that there's no way we can get an AD or an ND. We want to make sure that there's no way, the user will accidentally blow themselves up or, try and lick the charging port or do something crazy. So we've got a lot of beta testing to do before we can actually release these to the world. But we're super excited to have them. So the ET is definitely on the high up list of cool stuff we've got coming.
That's funny. Well, I need one. Like, it doesn't even have to be safe. If I get small groups, I don't even care if it's safe. I'm joking.
Yeah, I'll get one to you, Eric. I'll get one to you.
I'm joking, obviously, but yeah, that's exciting. What else?
So the other big push to just sort of segue from that is a lot of guys are really wanting to go lightweight right now. That's one of the really big questions we're getting. Yeah. So we've gone heavy, right? We've done the ACC.
Because you got to have, the ACC, it's got a million places where you can add weight.
Yep. Yeah. So everyone's gone and built 30-pound guns.
I got an idea for you guys. Great marketing. Sell the ACC Elite with all the weights on there. And then people can always make it lighter. Yeah,
that's one way to do it, eh? I mean, we did the April Fool's video where we've got helium-filled weights. Guys really like those, the lightweight weights. But yeah, so the lightweight market is huge right now. We realized that with the HNT, we were expecting to sell about 10% of what we ended up selling in the first year. And it really blew up, and we couldn't believe it, really. So the lightweight market, the hunting market, backpackers, that's really where a lot of requests are coming from right now. Guys who are wanting to hike 10, 20 miles a day kind of thing, right? Go and hunt sheep up in the mountains. And they say, okay, well, there's a lot of options out there right now, but either I have to wait 8 months to get it delivered. I have to get a gunsmith to bed it. I have to, do a bunch of work myself, where we want to offer something a little bit different. So we've got some stuff in the works right now, still pretty early on, but we've got our own carbon fiber department, as well as our machine shop. We've got our wood shop. So we've got a lot of R&D resources we can draw on to develop more lightweight, hunter-friendly products. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the new development from us coming from.
Well, that's exciting.
Maybe we'll do an F-class stock too, throw it in there too.
There you go. It's I don't know, man. The shooting world is it's pretty large, but it's at the same time it's very, very niche, right? It's you have to, like you said, you have to fill certain voids in the market, and they keep shifting. They just keep changing. Like, I brought tuners into the equation, and now tuners seems like everywhere, and now there's the controversies are popping up, whether they work or they don't work, and it's just this it's great. It's a great time to be in the shooting sports, I believe. And being a manufacturer, now that I'm a manufacturer myself, it's interesting. The some of the things that I read about, some of the things that like some of the products, I take a different approach to product development, and I'm simply developing the stuff that I use myself. Like, this has helped me win. I'm gonna put it out there for people. If they want to buy it, great. And they buy it, they try it out, they love it, they tell their friends, and they buy more, right? So some of the things that, my claim to fame has always been reloading, hand loading. And there's tons of tools that I have made for myself in the past that I use in my reloading room myself. And I'm going, okay, now it's time to start releasing some of these, and I'm going to have some things at SHOT Show. But it's pretty interesting. Like I said, some of the things, they're simple, but they're very efficient. They help, and they make a difference. I think anything that gets you excited to go into the reloading room is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways to, honestly, a lot of it's actually speeding up my reloading to make it as accurate but faster. It seems to be the goal the last few years with family and the amount of shooting we're doing and that type of thing. So, but it's always hard to add that speed and still maintain that accuracy. So it's always a challenge.
I do my F-class stuff on progressive, my brass prep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I had to figure out a way, it wasn't that hard, but I did it. So all my brass prep is done on a progressive. But one of the things that we're working on right now, I'll tell you guys, some people have seen it. I kind of started working on it, then I kind of put it away, and now it's like we're back at it. But it's an automated bullet pointer. You put it on your progressive press, and you put a bullet feeder on there. And if you have a handle, then you can just sit here and pull it. But if you have a auto drive and a bullet feeder, that thing can just sit there and point all your bullets for you. And it's amazing because bullet pointing, we do in F-class, you almost like every bullet needs to be pointed, because there's an advantage there, right? And we're trying to get any advantage that we can. So this bullet pointer, for me, that, again, because of reloading, I sit there and I'm like, this sucks, but it needs to be done. And, you sit there and you point 5,000 bullets, you don't ever want to hear about pointing again. But it needs to be done. So I know I'm not the only one on that boat. I know there's a lot of F-class shooters. So, that's what we're working on right now. And it's as with the machines that we have now, the capacities have improved. So we're making it way better than the original. My original design was so crude, but it worked. But now we're only improving on it and making it sexy. It has to be sexy.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely one of the factors we look at too when we're building stuff. So having that, people like to have stuff that looks good and feels good, and make sure it shoots well. So it's really important to what we're doing in our design. So, all
right, that trigger. So what's the timeline on the trigger again?
So basically right now we have the trigger, our first run of prototypes is coming in. We'll have it at SHOT Show. We'll have some units there, and then we'll be sending some other units out for beta testing. So those beta testers will have them out for, beta testing will be likely a minimum of about 6 months on those minimum, and then we'll be doing internal testing here as well. I've been doing testing on this since last January. I had around 8,000, 9,000 hits on a trigger by the time we were done with that one, and we were moving on to the next version. So lots of updates even from that one. Biggest ones being around battery life, that type of stuff too. We're pushing for around 1,000 trigger pulls per battery life. Really making sure that's a really important thing. Obviously, weatherproofing is a huge thing for us as well, and making sure it's incredibly safe, right? So those factors right there are adding up to, it's going to take time. We're already 2.5 years into this project. We would love to have a trigger out tomorrow, but we need to make sure it is up to the MDT name, and is the best product we can put out. So
have you, how much have you group shrank? And I understand that's like a very hard question to answer, but it's literally, that's what we're looking for. We're always looking for ways to, and fire control is something so big that we, like, as an F-class shooter, that's the first thing we go through in an action. It's like, and when we got those need mores, we told people, change the springs, and that made a little bit of a difference. But when you have when you're trying to get the best possible ignition system, that's why we spend $500 on the trigger. People get blown away when they hear how much we spend on the trigger, and it's like, it's not the trigger you're buying. You're buying points on target.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally what you're buying.
I can't remember exactly what the numbers off the top of my head, but it
just lie to me. Lie to me, Steven. I don't care. Just lie to me.
Dropped it by half MOA.
There you go. That sounds like a great sub. What was it? Zero stage?
Zero stage, yeah. Well,
zero
stage
ag.
trigger.
Just say you get 0 ags if you do your part.
Nice.
If you do your part, then you got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the monkey behind the trigger guy has to do their part, make sure the trigger does its part. So,
Oh man, I'm excited about that. Honestly,
From the sounds of it, I think we got to develop a lighter, like F-class BR specific trigger, because ours only goes down to 4 ounces right now, which is going to be too heavy for you, I think.
it's 4 times. It's what is that? 400% heavier than what I use.
Yeah, I think we need a half ounce to 2 ounce trigger coming.
There you go. It's the reason we get them that light. At least the reason I like treating them that light is because I'm more consistent that way, right? And if it's a pound, but it's super consistent, well, don't make it a pound, but you know what I mean. Consistency is key.
Cool. Yeah, that's the cool thing about this trigger is we've programmed it to go down to 4 ounces. Now, we haven't asked them to program it to go down to 1 ounce, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could. Obviously, it comes down to tolerances at that point as well, too, right? So, we've been working with the guys. You frozen? No, okay, I thought you were frozen for a second.
No, I'm just literally listening. I'm like, you had me at small groups, man.
Yeah, we've been working actually with the guys from Infignition, so LabRadar out of Quebec. They've been doing all the programming for us on this project and working with them heavily on this project. And yeah, it just comes down to basically we say, well, can we do this? Well, yeah, we can do that. They basically we can do anything essentially when it comes to programming it. So yeah, I'll see if we can do one even lighter. I wouldn't be surprised if we can. I think it comes down to the majority of people. I just say the majority. A lot of people are going to be okay with 4 ounces.
Yeah, 4 ounces is pretty light. So, 4 ounces is pretty light, and I probably wouldn't be able to. Okay, let's not get into special requests for now. Just get me one at 4 ounces. I'll be happy.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Well, this is exciting. Anything else? Just anything else? That was pretty exciting. Like. And that's what you guys are willing to talk about. I'm eager what you guys are hiding, honestly.
Oh, it's the long-term stuff we can't talk about. The stuff that we have additional prototypes or renders or something, and we just can't talk about them yet. Those are the hard ones because we know that they're going to be so cool, and we know that people are going to be excited about them. We just can't yet. But we do have some other cool things. I mean, we've got we got a new bipod we're going to be bringing to SHOT Show as well, which is going to be a little bit of a different change of pace for us. Just a different market segment, really. We've got a couple new chassis and some new generations of chassis kind of in the works, pretty early on right now. But yeah, a lot of, really, we do a pretty good review of our product line every now and then and just say, okay, well, what are we missing? Where are we weak? Where could we improve? Right. And a lot of the time it's driven by people saying like, look, why don't you guys make this? And sometimes, it's an inlet that's not super exciting, but sometimes it's something brand new, and one idea can just spark another. So yeah, really the trigger, we got this new bipod that we'll be showing at SHOT Show. We got a couple new things.
All right, I'm gonna have to go check it out. Where are you guys gonna be at SHOT?
We're over in the new Caesar area, so I can't remember what the booth number is, like 7113 or something like that. I'll send it over to you.
Well, I was trying to tell everybody about it so they can all come over and see it.
Yeah, it's like the far end of the Caesar Hall. So Josh is going to pull it up right now on his phone. He's going to find the number.
There you go, Josh. So. Come on, Josh. Save him. Save Ryan. So in the meantime, Ryan, so you guys are going to be a SHOT. You guys are going to have some cool projects. You're going to have the Elite there. People want to check it out. They want to fondle it, or I don't know what the proper word is for.
That's the most appropriate word for your podcast today.
So the forend is super long on that thing, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's do we hit 18 with it? I think it's 17 and a half or something like that. The forend super long. Biggest difference on that forend is we stiffened up the whole thing, added a lot of material to it. And then also went and added the R lock to the bottom of it as well that RRS is doing. So it's compatible with all their new heads they're released. And then the other big thing we added to it was the ability to attach NV hoods, and we call them control bridges. I tend to refer to them as Mirage hoods. So those holes along the top there is with the control bridges, there's 6 holes you can attach to for those. And then also on the NV bridges, there's 6 holes plus 2 pins to lock them in there as well. So those are the biggest 2 differences on the forend that we added to that. And then on the rear end of this buttstock is we really pushed the buttstock up as high as we could to get that linear recoil back through to the shooter's shoulder, and really focused on getting as much stiffness in the whole system as well. That rear connector bar is pretty incredible how much more stiffness it adds to the back end of that buttstock. You don't realize how much flex there is in chassis in general that are depending upon one connection point through that area. It's surprising with the amount of how much it adds there. The other big thing we've been working on, which is a really cool thing for the aluminum chassis, is our dampener system, which is just it's a softer rubber material that we have that inserts into your buttstock. And because we've seen, you get that twanging sound when you shoot aluminum chassis, or some aluminum chassis, and that vibration, it may not be, you may not be able to actually like see it, but you perceive it or feel it, when you are shooting that. And the way that we added these dampeners into that, it basically takes that slow vibration that you feel in the stock to basically being going up with the spike of the shot and then dropping straight back down. And there's very, very little vibration that you have in that, and it just slows everything down much, much more quickly. It's an interesting sensation shooting it and shooting without them. If you've been shooting with them for a long time, like we've been testing them for quite a while, we've had 3D printed versions of them. It's been a big thing for people that really, well, in the PRS particularly, because they want to run on the ACCs. People have been wanting them for quite a while, and there's been delays with materials and things like that. So, but they're coming out this month as well. So people are very, very excited about that. So, we're always like making changes to grips, making changes to bag riders, adjusting things that people, it's developing products that people want us to develop and trying to make it a more shootable product and make things more accurate, right? Or make them shoot more accurately. So it's just, it all adds up to the end of the day that we want to make people shoot better.
There you go.
So
smaller
coming
groups,
back,
right?
Yeah, smaller groups. Coming back to SHOT Show, Brian and I will both be, MDT's booth is 71113.
711, what? 711, God dang.
3 ones and then a 3.
Wow, okay. I didn't know if there was a third one in there. 71113.
Yep. I think it's the same place as we were last year. The new hall there at Caesars. I'll be at the NRL Hunter match the weekend before as well, down in Arizona. Ryan will be diligently setting up the booth, I think. So that sounds fun to me.
How did that happen? Who lost that bet? I mean, I know who lost it.
I kind of volunteer for it, but I want to make sure the guns are done perfectly. So, but I am going to be at Sheep Show before that. So we'll hit Reno and then head down to Vegas. So yeah, it'll be good.
Good. Well, I'll see you guys there. Well, I appreciate the interview. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Not at the moment. All right.
No, I think we've covered everything we can talk about.
We're gonna have to come back and talk about the trigger when it's finally released.
Yep. Trigger and some of the other cool products we got in the works for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited about the trigger. I was out this morning shooting, and my new rifle that I'm shooting, my new barrel is really doing well. It's it's averaging about pretty easily sub half MOA at 1,000. Like I shot a 10-shot group that measured 5 inches, but if I do 5-shot groups, they're usually about 3 inches or less. So it's doing really good.
Any flyers or?
No flyers. I count every shot. No flyers. I count every shot. And but yeah, I'm wondering what this trigger can do. Maybe it can shrink my aggregate down. Maybe it'll get rid of all my flyers. How about that?
That'd be nice.
That would be nice. All right, guys. Thank you. And it's been great. See you guys at SHOT Show.
Yep. Thanks for having us. It was awesome.
Later. Bye, Ryan.
Yep. See you later, man.